This is Render Life with Neal Render. In this episode, we discover a woman whose life was turned upside down in one phone call. And later, relationship expert Love McPherson explains how self-love elevates our lives. Coming up now on Render Life.
This is Render Life, your host, Neal Render here, where we celebrate, elevate, and discover people's lives. And on today, you're going to hear a powerful, dynamic transformation story from Catriese Henning. Thank you, Catriese, so much for joining us on Render Life. And this transformation you underwent, what went on?
Well, it was August 2010. And I was really living a very comfortable life. I had a good job, I had a good social life, a good family, nothing that I could complain about at all. But one day I got a call from my doctor's office telling me that they'd found a tumor and that I had cancer.
And what, backing up to that, the routine of your day, you were saying it was routine. What was day to day, that involved this routineness?
Well, my day-to-day life was going to work, taking care of my son, trying to have a social life, just basically being a part of a good family, being a good employee, being a good friend, and I was very much living my life, and it was a routine thing and the day-to-day thing. And I pretty much did the same thing every day, but it was comfortable. And one day I got the call. The call that I had cancer.
Cancer, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
And when I got that phone call, it just kind of spun things out of control for me for a while, in that I was no longer comfortable in my body. I wasn't comfortable in my skin, and I wasn't comfortable in my life. Mm-hmm. And so
health-wise, how were you, or mentally before?
I really didn't have any symptoms that would even alert me that I was sick. Mm-hmm. So when I got the call from my doctor and she told me that they'd found a tumor, I didn't believe her at first. And I actually refuted what she was saying to me about having cancer.
So once you had got the call and heard her voice, I believe you were sharing about there was something that you at first went to check on, with just a routine checkup.
Right.
And what was that regarding?
I was having a routine checkup because, I was having like cramps and things of that nature. So I was a little bit concerned about that.
So nothing out of there was some pain, maybe not
discomfort, but nothing out of the ordinary.
So mentally you came just prepared to just maybe some medicine or the counsel.
And it would be okay.
But the thing is, once they dropped the news, I believe you were saying there was you deplugged or shut off.
I totally unplugged. I unplugged. And she was saying to me, things like, you're going to be okay. We're going to take care of you. You're going to beat this. It's going to be okay. And I very flatly told her, I do not have cancer.
So was it, she just flowed right into it, talking about it's going to be okay and wanting to comfort you, or was it a very tense moment, or she just laid it out there?
She laid it out there, but she was trying to be comforting, and I could tell that, she wanted to allay my fears. She wanted me to accept that this is where I was, and that I was going to be okay. But I really wasn't in the right frame of mind to really get that or understand what she was saying. And like I said, I told her very, very clearly, I do not have cancer. How could I have cancer when I'm not exhibiting any kind of symptoms? I don't feel, ill. I'm not sick. Mm-hmm. And so she took the time to explain to me very, very firmly that they found what they'd found, and that it was important for me to come in within 2 days to see a specialist. She understood that I was about to spin out into a real, state of denial. And so she came back to me and was very firm about the fact that I needed to see a specialist. And my brain was so, it was just so, I was just totally discombobulated. I did not know what she was talking about, and my brain could not assimilate what she was saying to me. And so what I told her was that I didn't have enough time, you know, to give any notice at my job to let them know that I would need to be off on Friday.
So she's speaking, she's trying to go into this flow,
she's
and you're
trying
like, no.
to tell me what my next steps are, and I'm telling her that I don't have time to go to a specialist.
I don't have time. I don't want to hear this. I got to take care of work. There's other. So you're in, yet again, routine mode.
Right.
The way of life.
Because that's what was safe for me. That's what I knew. I knew my routines. I know what I knew what I had to do when I got up in the morning, throughout my day, how I spend my evening. I knew that, and what she was presenting to me was something that was totally outside of my experience, and it was totally outside of my sphere of influence. I had no control over what was happening to me in terms of this condition, and mentally I could not deal with that in that moment. But she told me that I absolutely had to show up on Friday, and that I needed to call my office and make whatever arrangements to be off. And so so I did that, because I understood that she was serious.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear about that appointment when we come back.
Next up, Catriese shares how overcoming cancer gave her a new ambition to help other women.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
You made her college years possible, opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading campus tours, and deciphering financial aid. If you can ace planning for college, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.
These are cool. Did you, what did you?
We just found out that Catriese had heard this debacle of news that flipped her world upside down. She has cancer. So Catriese, when you went into that appointment and those words were shared, how did that, what went on?
Well, when I got to the appointment, I had managed to get myself together a little bit. But as I sat with the specialist and he explained to me what my next steps were and what it was that he would need to do in order to treat me, he could see that I was still having a lot of fear. And so he did take the time to give me time to pull that together so that I could go into the surgery as strong as possible and have the best chance of coming out of it and having the best outcome.
Were you in any fashion educated about the cancer they had spoken over your life?
At that time, I struggled to even understand that I had cancer. So I had done some research maybe after the first appointment that I had with my urologist to understand what having cancer, kidney cancer would what it meant.
So it was
And-
kidney cancer.
Yes.
That's okay.
It was kidney cancer. And so what really was interesting about the case for the doctors is that at that time I was 36 years old, and it was a disease or a condition that would generally happen to people who were probably twice my age.
So when you read that, you was like, this is a older person's disease.
Right.
What is that? Me in this situation that's going on, was it clicking? I mean,
and I asked the doctors, my entire team of doctors, how did this happen to me? And they didn't have a good answer because I don't smoke, I rarely drink, and so it was just happenstance. It was a disease that was literally happenstance, and so that taught me something. That it taught me that. We're really not in control of our lives. We could be going along, like I said, in our routines, just living life, and then something could come from the left and knock us totally off of our axis. And so for me, the biggest struggle for me in that whole process was having to trust this person to fix me, to make me better. And I had never had to depend on anyone like that before in my life. So
even though you didn't feel any symptoms, is that right? You didn't
right.
feel
I
any
didn't feel
symptoms.
any symptoms, but I knew I was sick.
Right.
So having to put my well-being in the hands of another person was a huge deal for me. But I didn't have too many other options. I wanted to be made well again. So I had to rely on him and depend on him. And luckily, I've been 7 years cancer-free, knock on wood. I just hope to continue to do well.
Yeah. And one thing about it, some people are more, when they get hit with just disastrous news, they're just, they're lackadaisical or more passive. They may go into denial. And then I know, like you were saying, you're used to having that control.
Right.
And I just wanted to speak a little bit more on that about how, like you said, so when you meant control of your life, I mean, what is that? What did that entail? I mean, you had a grip on every single facet. I mean, very micromanager, or everything was.
Yeah. Basically, I micromanaged a lot of parts of my life because for me, structure is important and order is important, and it's just how I live day to day, how I try to anyway.
Well, so you was victorious on so many levels from that battle, that war, I would say. And what now? What's next? What's the next chapter that you're moving in of discovery? As you're elevating so beautifully.
Well, for the last 7 years, the biggest thing for me is been trying to figure out who I am and what I really wanted from life and what I wanted to accomplish. Because that time between, when I was born and when I'm going to leave, I don't know when that date is still to be determined.
Right, yeah.
So for me, it's important to figure out what it is that I'm going to do in that in-between space. And this whole 7-year period for me has been a really huge time of introspection, and it's really revived the passion that I have to serve.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm looking into coaching and mentoring, especially women, to help them to get to that place where it's okay for them to let go and to not always be in control and be comfortable with that. And also just to, like I said, to just serve and to be in a space where I can inspire and help and assist other people to be the best of who they are.
It really seems like this had made you more vulnerable, and not in a bad way, but just it opened up that pathway.
Yes.
By you going through the cancer and then self-discovery, overcoming it, mind you, and just able to share and strengthen these young women's lives and older women to be a open book.
Yeah.
And we just thank you so much, Catriese, for
thank
joining
you.
us
Thank
on
you. I
Render
appreciate
Life.
it.
And Shirley, we just thank you so much. More to
All right.
come.
Coming up on Render Life, relationship expert Love McPherson explains the elevating power of self-love in our lives.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self, and I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
Truth is, I'm impressed. I haven't been asked such intelligent questions in a long time. Nice.
Welcome back. We've heard Catriese's cancer survival story. Joining me now, we have Ms. Love McPherson, relationship expert. Thank you for being with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Great. You look so wonderful. You look great and stunning in your gray and black. Come on now. See?
Love the compliments on this
She's
show.
like, oh, come on now. So great, stylish, beautiful, relationship expert advice. What is a relationship expert? There's a lot of things I can think of, but I know you would share it much better than I could think it.
Well, a relationship expert is someone who you would want to go to find out how to love better. And that's what I feel like my mission is, to teach you how to love better. I've learned how to love better through 34 years of marriage to the love of my life, my college sweetheart. I've learned through watching my parents' love relationship. They were married 60 years. And I've learned in relationships, especially in over 20 years in the mental health field. So that's kind of what qualifies me.
All right, come on now. So the people that have benefited, the younger and older, who's able to be able to receive all that love advice?
Love is for everyone.
Come on now.
So basically, I work with couples who are either experiencing relationship issues or just basically want some maintenance and to improve their relationships. I work with people before they get engaged, after they get engaged, and I work with singles who are in a relationship, singles who are out of a relationship, singles who say, I don't want any more relationships, but I work with all of them. And so my clientele is people who have relationships with others, which is just about everybody.
Yeah, come on now. Come on now. So within these different things we go through of self-worth and self-love, what would you, after hearing Catriese's story, a woman who was very strong and independent, being broken down by the news of cancer and not really, trusting people, what would you speak to that regarding those things?
Well, Catriese's story was not necessarily unique in how she responded, only because what I saw in her was that when she got the initial shock, the first thing you have to do is how you process it. And probably the way that she processed it is something that she was conditioned. So it almost felt like she was avoiding avoidism. And so people can use different ways of avoidism. So they may get wrapped up and distracted by work.
Yep.
or sex or alcohol or whatever the case may be, but whatever will distract them from their reality. And the reason is this, because before we even go towards love in any capacity, love for ourselves, love for anything, what we do is it's a hierarchy, we need safety.
Okay,
And so
yeah.
she needed first to tap into, I need to feel safe. Sometimes being in an abusive relationship feels more safe than leaving and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
So what happened was, notice she just began to say, hey, I first need to feel safe, because if I get out of this zone, I go into a zone where I am vulnerable to have to trust people. I'm vulnerable to have to be at the mercy of them to take care of me. My finances are vulnerable. Everything is vulnerable at that point.
And I just want to share this, how within hearing Catriese's story and processing with her, she was sharing how the control, she wanted to hold on to be able, all these variables and different factors, she wanted to have a hand on it.
And control is fear. You'll
Yeah.
see that in many relationships. You'll see that in husband-wife relationship. You'll see that in mother-son and mother and daughter and father and son. It's control is fear. And so you have to go and find out, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid? And this is what happens. When people are controlling to that sense, a lot of times what you'll find is that they control externally because they don't have self-control internally.
And I know that's a true statement, because she was sharing about how her atmospheres, or externally, or where she goes, she wants to be able to control that. She was, how you did when you did it like this, same exact, just
gestures,
language of that. So that is so true, just affirming that. And I think it's amazing how you keyed into that, how that control, things you may not be able to see, the fear of this, control measures by way of being fearful, but externally want to control those external things going on in your life.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I just want to speak to that. Yeah, so go ahead, girl. You doing your relationship expert thing. Come on. You know it's real. You know it's real. Let the head go back.
Okay.
So, so the thing is just taking care and taking care of yourself. How important is that, to be able to take care of yourself regarding these things like that to process through? How important is that?
I refer to the Bible a lot, and it says love your neighbor as you love yourself. But the prerequisite is you gotta love yourself. Okay. And if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. Yeah. And so when she got to the point where she could not control herself, therefore she could not love herself, so she had to control people externally. Right. You'll see that probably a lot of her relationships reflected that. And so when she could not love herself correctly, then she could not trust others to love her correctly, whether your name is doctor, whether you're a husband, whatever. And so self-love is important, and it's not just important, it's imperative. It's imperative. And so what the seriousness of this is, if you're on a plane, what do they tell you to do before you put the oxygen mask on yourself first? Because you can't help someone else if you don't first secure who you are. And so when it comes to self-love, in order to put the oxygen and help someone else and love someone else, you have to first love yourself.
Why does it feel like certain things of selfishness go on if you're taking care of yourself? Why do people view that as selfish? If you're taking care of your needs, but certain people may say you're being selfish by taking care of you first versus my needs, relationship-wise.
And a lot of times, if that is your mindset, that's something that has been told to you for someone else's needs to be met. So they have conditioned you to believe that in order for you to put them first. So that can be even a form of manipulation. And you've processed it as truth, and so you go into self-guilt and guilty, just because you are taking care of yourself. Now, there can be a point of narcissism and selfishness and things like that, but it's not about. It doesn't come at the boundary line of first making sure you take care of yourself. You need to have a good relationship with yourself. You must have a good relationship with yourself, and the only way that you can have a good relationship with yourself is that you speak truth to yourself. And you have to go and literally excavate all the lies and shame and manipulation that people have told you about you. And you've got to bring that to the surface and say, you know what? I am not a bad person. I am not lazy. I am not. Whatever it is, you have to re-talk that, because out of the abundance of your heart, the mouth speaks. So everything will come up out of whatever you decided was truth for you. And so when you love yourself and the foundation of you is, the truth is that I am loved and I am lovable, I am not disposable, that I can trust, that people they're not all bad, that I can believe that there are people who are around me that are good, that will take care of me. When you can go into that place in you and tell the truth to you, then all of your interactions, all of your responses, all of your relationships will reflect that.
Yeah, that is so true, because sometimes people just run when the first, if you will, you got me. You know, when I say you got me, you was negative or hurt me, whatever the case may be, emotionally or with words, verbal abuse, physical abuse. You run, and then there's others that, I think you're going to get me, so I'm going to get you first.
Absolutely.
And there's just a lot that's going on in the mind of, things that we go through as people, but sharing what you shared, advising to, others regarding that toward wholeness. So what would you advise to those people out there that are looking for such a wholeness in their life, to be the best of the best in their relationships?
I would say that, first of all, you need to come and deal with your issues. You need to realize, you have to invest the time, you have to invest the space, you have to invest the work that is required in order to be whole. And here's the thing, I watch how you did when you were younger. A lot of times you will see the same patterns. Say, like you were in an abuse, lived in a home where there was physical abuse.
Yeah.
I ask the people, my clients, I say, so where were you when the abuse was happening? You have that child who's behind the door, who's listening, who's brewing, who's saying, one day I'm going to get my father. I can't stand him. I can't, or my mother's boyfriend. So that's that person. There's another one who immediately leaves the house. There's another one who will sit there and watch it happen and watch TV or play on a video game and not address it. All of those different people are actually, you'll find those same behaviors. As soon as crisis come, that one who left the house, those are the runners. Those are the ones who will leave you. Yeah. If you have any issues of abandonment, it will poke their finger right into your hole, and you'll think, they don't love me. There's another one who will suppress anger and then release it. There's another person who will escape. And if you escape, you will find whatever your avenue, wherever your hideout, whether it be work, whether it be whatever, you'll find your area of escape and stay right there. And so what I'm saying to you is, there are patterns that you have developed in your relationship. That's what I would say. And you need to address it, because a lot of times you won't see yourself, but someone else will see you, and I will see you, and so come sit in my chair.
Come on now.
And so what I would really advise is that people make sure that they are dealing with their issues. They make the investment so that they can have good, healthy, functional relationships with both themselves and with others.
Great. Love McPherson, relationship expert. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Such a pleasure.
And hope more to come. It'll be good, good, good. Thank you for watching.